July 19th, 2023 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 business meeting. We want to welcome those of you who are with us at the old courthouse and those who are joining us online. Some of you may be here to provide public comment. The Board of Douglas County Commissioners welcomes public comment and in advance thanks you for following these procedures. Each action item on the agenda will offer an opportunity for relevant public comment about that topic. We ask that you wait until the agenda item you're here for comes up for discussion. Comments related to agenda items are welcomed after the board has had an opportunity to discuss the topic. Board of Douglas County Commissioners will invite comments on topics not on the agenda during general public comment, which is directly after our consent agenda. This is time for addressing issues not on today's agenda, but related to general business of the Douglas County Commission. We'll first call on folks who are here in person and then turn in the online commenters who are here with us tonight. If you're on Zoom, please plan to use the raise your hand function when the time comes and listen for staff to call your name. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask everyone to give their full name and Douglas County residence for our meeting minutes. All public comments will be directed to the Douglas County Commission. Campaigning for public office. Campaigning for public office is not allowed. We also reserve the right to mute and remove any speaker who is vulgar, rude, or inappropriate. Public should also know that comments received by the commission during our meetings do not represent the views of Douglas County government. If visual aids are used during the meeting, the presenter will share their screen. Please know that online participants will not be able to view them without a computer, smartphone, or tablet during tonight's meeting. Materials are published online for your reference as well. Lastly, a recording of the meeting will be available on our YouTube page and website. Tonight's agenda is very short. We do not have any consent agenda items. So, we have one consent agenda item. We'll then move to general public comment. We have one regular agenda items. We'll follow that with appointments and then commissioner and ministerial miscellaneous before we adjourn. Commissioners, would either of you like to remove the one consent agenda item we have?
No.
No? Is any member of the public here or online who would like to remove the consent agenda item for further comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for motions.
Move to approve item 1.1 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll move on to general public comment. Is anyone here to provide general public comment? Invite you up to the microphone. There's a sign-in sheet there. Thank you. And you have 3 minutes to address the commission. Larry, go ahead and hit that button. Yep, and the light will turn.
There you
green
go.
and you're on. Thank you.
Larry Wilson at 953 North 400 Road. It's kind of on the suburbs of Warden. It's my understanding that the property assessments average about 10% this year. To me, that's just unbelievable. Just from that, the money generated should be just an astonishing amount. So I assume the mill levy will go down. When I went in for my reappraisal, I wrote down 2 comments that I knew that they would say. Number one is, oh, we have to appraise it correctly because it's required by law. And the other one is, oh, that don't mean your taxes are going to go up because the mill levy will determine that. Yeah, I don't imagine that. Okay, to me, I just cannot believe that's is hard to budget for. I mean, 10% is a lot. I never got no 10% cost of living raise when I was at the county. So go from there. I also read that you guys are revisiting what you give out to the nonprofits and want to see better results. Kudos to all you for that. You know, you should do that for all departments and entities. Now move on to the homeless. I believe we need to change or adjust our policies. Just giving doesn't seem to be working. It's just attracting more. I feel that almost every person can and should be required to do something, anything, to receive some assistance. The homeless shelter is only 1,000 feet from the Public Works Department. There's only one person I know of that applied for a county job and they were hired. Okay. I went down there when I was working there and I never did get anybody to come even apply. Okay. So just as saying, I do odd jobs for people. And so I stop with those people sitting along the street and ask them if they want to help. I'm 1 for 15. Not very good odds. Not saying those folks are lazy, but 14 to 1 are, as far as I'm concerned. Isn't there a saying, give a man a fish, we'll feed him for a day, teach him how to fish and we'll feed him for a lifetime? Why don't we do that? Let's only help those that want to help themselves. I had another comment, but I know I'm running out of time, so will be another time. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Anyone online, Jill? Okay, we'll close public comment and move on to our regular agenda items. Just a reminder, as we move to regular agenda items, I addressed public comment. We did move, well, we haven't actually approved our budget yet, but after our discussions, we discussed lowering the mill levy by 2 mills. So I just want people to be aware of that and make sure everybody has read that. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we'll move to our regular agenda item, which is a request from Florence Douglas County Housing Authority to approve the adoption of a revised joint county resolution to grant certain powers to the Housing Authority. Is this Jill, or we just could invite Shannon up? And
Let's just invite Shannon up.
hi, Shannon.
Hello, my name is Shannon Oury. I'm the CEO of the Douglas County Housing Authority. And we come to make this request because the Housing Authority wishes to be a bigger player in adding affordable housing. The current resolution has some restrictions on our ability to buy or sell and hold the deeds of a property. All of our property is currently deeded to the city of Lawrence in care of the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority. And so we're not able to borrow money or do any of those things that would be required. We also would have to go get prior approval for a real estate transaction in an open public meeting with the city before we could enter into any sort of contract for that, and which is not the way real estate works, particularly in as hot a market as we are in Lawrence and Douglas County right now. So we're asking for this basically so that we can play a bigger part in trying to develop affordable housing. Happy to answer any specific questions about.
Hey, Shannon, I was going to, I think one thing I think that's exciting about this resolution and what could come after is the potential for the Housing Authority to really get outside the county or the city of Lawrence a bit more. When we talk about affordable housing, about our housing and homelessness strategic plan, affordable housing is a significant part of that. And I know that, I know in particular, I've heard from the city manager of Eudora about wanting to be a part of some of these collaborative efforts because we've got some really good thought leaders that are part of that work group. And Shannon, Leah Roslin with the city of Lawrence. So when I met with Shannon to talk about what would it look like to think outside of Lawrence for the footprint of the Housing Authority a bit more, she's like, well, let's get this resolution done. And then we'll really be cooking with gas. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and a good example of that is when we did the cottages, it was on property that's owned by the county. And we have a 99-year lease on it, but we had to go to the city to get permission to build those units and for it not to then have to be partitioned and that deed for those 10 units transferred to the city. And of course, I mean, that's in the city, but right now our resolution says that everything we own must be deeded to the city of Lawrence. And so it has restricted our ability to own or develop property outside of the city of Lawrence without trying to kind of create, I mean, it's a very odd set of documents that we had to have a bunch of lawyers drafting when we went to do the cottages. So it will really, help our ability to do that. And I think, I don't think I have to express to you the need for affordable housing. I think you've demonstrated you fully understand that issue and that some of the solution is not within the city limits of Lawrence.
Shannon, can you talk a little bit about the work of the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority that exists outside of Lawrence right now? Are those all rentals with the ability that you can't own land?
Correct. So we do provide housing assistance throughout the county, but it's in the form of a voucher. And so we have a lot of vouchers that are used either in Baldwin and Eudora, not very many in Lecompton, but so we do serve the whole county, but the only property that we actually own is within the city limits of Lawrence.
And about how many units would that be that you own and manage, not just through vouchers?
The brick and mortars that we own, we have about 450 units. So, and that's in the form of our public housing units, which are Edgewood Homes, which is 130, Babcock, which is 120 units, Peterson Acres, which is 25. And then we have what's called HUD multifamily, which is Clinton Place, which is where the expansion that we're jointly working on, where we're going to add the new units. That's a different program in HUD, but it's 58 units that we own. And then we own 94 scattered site units, which is basically little duplexes or houses all around town, primarily in the central core. We own very few, if anything past Iowa.
And Clinton Place is the project that's got a significant amount of funding from the county ARPA funds, correct?
Correct. And if I gave you my annual report, if you flip it to the back, that's the project that we're on. And happy to say that we've gotten our environmental assessment. We're currently in our public comment period, and then we'll be getting the design and all the other pieces moving. So yeah, so we're just hoping to do more of those type of things.
So, and this might not be fully developed, but what's your vision for working in Eudora, Baldwin, and Lecompton? Would those be scattered sites, buying existing homes, building new? Do you have some thoughts about that?
You know, we're probably open to pretty much anything that will allow us to get, you know, units. We would never probably build another Edgewood Homes. We might build a large senior project, but generally the thought is that you try not to consolidate low income. And so you kind of can have a tendency to overwhelm a particular school or those type of things. So as opposed to 130 units sort of all in one place, you know, we prefer to have 25 units in 3 places, that type of thing. But I mean, you're going to get more mileage out of your dollars if you do a multifamily, right? So as opposed to single family homes. So, you know, we would probably be more interested in duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes in those areas.
Shannon, I'd be interested, like the joint resolution that we have now is for the city of Lawrence and Douglas County.
Mhm.
If you were looking in Baldwin, or would you need a resolution from Baldwin or the city of Eudora?
I don't believe so. There's no restrictions on, I mean, Baldwin wouldn't have a restriction on us purchasing property there and building something there. And quite frankly, you know, I've met with some of the city leaders in Baldwin and they're very interested in any affordable housing. You know, they have very few lots available. So we wouldn't have to have any kind of resolution. We certainly wouldn't be opposed to any sort of partnership with another municipality. And would be completely open to that, but.
I would just add to that from my perspective, I think, because I remember reading the resolution language a while ago, and again, more recently, I don't think that it says anything about unincorporated Douglas County only. And so it's just this, you know, if only we could be flies on the wall of who originally, the lawyers who concocted this joint resolution. But I appreciate that hopefully they'll just be sort of simple paths forward with each of the cities individually and maybe some opportunities in the unincorporated area in between, but I hope that this will offer you a lot more ability to leverage opportunities in the moment and not have to hop over a bunch of hurdles along the way.
Yeah, and kind of a short outline of our strategic plan is in that annual report. But one of the things that our board is really committed to is, I mean, our first item on our strategic plan is to double the number of units that we assist, whether that's through owning them or vouchering them. And our board is committed for us to hire a consultant to help us learn how to do development and explore every grant and other kind of funding resources that's out there. So we've identified some people that we are hoping to help us do this because it's a specialty. There are a ton of housing authorities across the country who do this and who do tax credit projects and all types of things like that. And we really want to take the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority to the next level as a developer.
Those are exciting aspirations. Thanks for sharing. I'm curious, do you, obviously we just have this one change to the joint resolution in front of us. Are there any other parts of that joint resolution that you perceive as potential barriers in moving forward? Or perhaps maybe that will be part of the learning process with a consultant and learning how to do development?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, one of the things that the city wanted was for us to seek approval before we incur debt. And I honestly think, we spend federal dollars, we use, right? And I don't see any issues with checks and balances of that way. We're a relatively conservative agency and we won't do anything that is too risky that would, really risk any of our current property. But it is a shame to have 450 units that there's no way to utilize to get more units. So that is one of the big things that this will allow us to do is, we have 15 units we own outright. We manage them to where they are positive cash flow for us. They have their own reserve for future capital account. And so we know how to manage these. We have economies of scale and we should be trying to use every asset we have to get more housing because we just know what a major need it is in our community.
And I think, we're thinking about those new units, I'm super excited about because as we've talked over the last year, Shannon shared with our stakeholders, but also in meetings with commission as, those vouchers, the units that those vouchers are accepted at is just, you're lucky if it's holding steady. But we've seen a lot of losses there. So building new units is definitely a need.
Yeah.
So as Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority moves outside into the other communities in a more tangible way, does that still fall under HUD or then those become under like USDA rural development, which I know like Baldwin Affordable Housing falls under USDA because of the size of the population? Is that a new territory for you?
Yes. So without that restriction that all of our deeds have to be held by the city of Lawrence, we will have access to additional programs.
And HUD programs would not be able to function in Baldwin, Eudora, Lecompton. Is that true?
No.
I'm guessing there.
Nope.
Okay, so both would be
Yeah.
attainable.
We manage on behalf of Burt Nash, a HUD, what they call PRAC 811 property in Baldwin right now. So that was built sometime in the 80s and we're the management agent for them. So there are HUD programs already in Baldwin, but and we could certainly work on some more of them.
So in terms of the land ownership, would this resolution impact, new land deeds moving forward, or would it retroactively kind of capture the deeds that are currently held within the city of Lawrence on behalf of Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority?
So the city adopted the kind of, we attached the second resolution, but the city of Lawrence is transferring all the public housing property to us. They voted on that last week, so they will assign all the deeds of the property to us.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, and then the new deeds will have issued in our own name.
And then that allows you to use debt off of properties that are owned to build new properties.
Exactly.
But that debt then has to go through the city of Lawrence for approval. It doesn't go to if it's held in Baldwin or if it's held in the county.
Before I incur any debt, I will get the permission of the county administrator and the city manager. So Douglas County will also have input on whether we can borrow money. But the city of Baldwin or Eudora would not.
Shannon, I'm just curious, once upon a time, it was thought that this was a good idea. Have you put any thought into, why was this part of the resolution the way it was, back in 1968?
Yeah, well, so in 68, the Lawrence Housing Authority was formed, right? And the Lawrence Housing Authority is the body that got the funding to build all of our public housing. And then in the 80s, when they first started doing vouchers, the first vouchers happened in the county. And so Lawrence Housing Authority, we had two housing authorities. We have Douglas County Housing Authority, Lawrence Housing Authority. Lawrence was the managing agent of Douglas County Housing Authority to administer the first vouchers that we had in the county. Then there was some new regulation that came out, made it more difficult to have that structure. So we merged those two housing authorities. And my guess is, although none of the historical things that I've read really says this, is that the city was like, wait a second. We want the authority to deal with the real property that we own. And that is my guess as to why it read that way, why the city of Lawrence had the authority to buy, sell, or encumber the property.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. So regular agenda items, we'll take public comment. Anybody here at the courthouse like to provide public comment on this item? Anyone online, Joe? Okay, we'll bring it back up to the commission for discussion and or motions.
I'm very happy to see this before us and supportive and happy to make a motion if there's no further comments. Move to, there we go. I move to authorize joint resolution number 7487 concerning the powers of the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority.
Second.
I'll just make a comment before moving for votes there. We have a motion and a second, and one is to thank the city of Lawrence, because I think this, especially when it comes to the deeds of all those properties, turning that over to Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority is huge. And I think it recognizes that while historically it may be good to hold on to what you have, that may not allow us to move forward in a way that can benefit the people of our community. And really appreciate Shannon's leadership in this space and working with all of the entities, as I know sometimes is difficult to do, to get these things moved forward. So this is pretty exciting to me. Unless there's anything else.
Commissioners, somebody did raise their hand. I don't know if you want to reopen public comment or not. I just wanted to.
Well, we have a motion on the floor and a second. I would say we need to vote at this point, and then we'll take that public comment. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we could take that public comment now.
Maureen, if you want to offer your public comment, go ahead. You can unmute.
Lauren, if you have public comment, the commission would be happy to hear it.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I had to unmute. My name's Laureen Taylor, and I was formerly connected to Lawrence where I lived. And my husband's still employed at the University of Kansas. So I do stay informed of the goings on in Lawrence. And my, excuse me, my question is, what type of deed is involved? And is there potential for the deeds to be transferred to private partners for the housing authority? Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't mind if you answer that question. Is that okay, commissioners? Sure.
So all the housing authority, all of our properties have deed restrictions on them that they be used for affordable housing. So
Can you transfer it to a private owner?
no, I mean, it would take a vote of our board to do so. So that would not be something. And as I say, because we accept a capital fund grant from HUD on every property that we own, except those 15 that we own outright. They have a covenant and a deed restriction, deed of trust on them that you'd have to pay HUD back all the capital fund money to be able to transfer that property. So.
I suppose it could be done, but it would be a significant hurdle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
by a
Deed
lot,
restriction.
Yeah. Mhm.
by a ton more money than what it would be worth because of all the capital fund that's been put into all the properties.
Thank you, Shannon. Okay, commissioners, that is the end of our regular agenda. We will move on to appointments. I don't believe we had any appointments before us. Okay, and we'll move on to miscellaneous. We typically start with Sarah, but today we start with Jill.
Commissioners, you have a management memo in your packet, and I don't think there's anything too timely in there, a lot of information. I would direct you to put a summary of a meeting that we had at the Coalition for Human Services this past Friday, talking around having just kind of a large discussion, trying to better understand some of the barriers and potential solutions to food insecurity issues in the county. So we did a lot of great work in some small groups and large groups. The notes of that that Jake put together for us are in there. And we're going to do some more work at our next Coalition for Human Services. And yeah, stand for questions.
Jill. Commissioners, questions or other miscellaneous items?
That's it for me.
Okay.
Commissioners,
Yeah.
I failed to, Shannon has got an award. The Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority received an award from HUD earlier this past year, I think, right, Shannon?
Yeah.
Why don't you come to the,
Yeah, this is an effort to share our success. So there is a National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials, NARO. It's a housing authority association group. And every year they award various different awards, and we submitted our project for the cottages. And we received an award of excellence. We're one of only 13 in the United States who received this award. And I requested an additional plaque because that project and the design of it, which the county basically led, would not have happened. And so we wouldn't be getting this hardware. And so I wanted to share this hardware with the county and just to say publicly, thank you for allowing us to participate in that project and really being a leader in behavioral health.
That's certainly exciting. Thank you. All right.
thanks.
you.
Carrie's going to pop,
Thank you.
Carrie will pop down after the meeting.
Yeah,
We'll do a
We'll
picture.
get a mid picture of that.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you,
It
Shannon.
was a fun project to work on.
Okay, commissioners. Well, that's exciting news to end on. Anything else? All right, we are adjourned.